Everyone, meet the Monster of Euroa, a plausible version of Australia's most forgotten cryptid. This beast terrified an entire town in the 1880s, then vanished into legend. No photos, only a very few, a number of witnesses, almost zero evidence, and yet the stories persist. Australia, 1880. Livestock are found slaughtered. Hunters are paralyzed with fear after seeing something unusual and massive lurking in the outback. An entire town lived in terror of its presence until the Melbourne Zoological Garden sent a team to track the creature. Despite the pedigree of people sent to find it, they were able to uncover massive unexplainable tracks. Afterwards, and by 1884, it disappeared, leaving Euroa haunted by mystery. Today on Cryptozoology, we're solving this 140-year-old cold case. Using witness reports, equatorial and Australian wildlife, and paleontology, we'll reconstruct the first bioaccurate monster of Euroa and show you how to draw it step by step. Before we begin, let's break down the monster of Euroa. After scouring every report on the net that we could find, here's the profile. This beast is stretched up to being 30 feet long, with powerful dog-like jaws. Some even compared its head to a bullfrog, and its upper body was brown, while the underbelly was yellow. And overall, the whole thing was described as sleek and lithe. It haunted the swamps, sometimes venturing into forests, and was fiercely territorial. So much so that even the toughest hunting dogs ran off terrified when it encountered them. Some say it hid in hollow logs, but that's still up for debate. And its tracks? Well, let's just say they were massive, mammoth-sized even. But instead of making casts, the search party just wanted to hunt it down. A quick note on the witnesses. These were not naive settlers. These were hardy people, and they knew the land and the creatures that they've come to live in. But this creature left them absolutely stumped. And who knows, maybe something like it still lurks in the outback's wildest corners. All this happened in what's now called Munro Swamp, just south of Kithbrook. Today, only a handful of cryptid websites even mention its presence. The monster of Euroa, thus, is nearly forgotten, but not by us. With our profile locked in, let's design this beast. So, what creatures are we going to make, well, this? Here they are, and let's go through the process of drawing it so you can do it too. We picked 5 creatures to reference from, trying to make sure they either come from the land down under or at least from the equator at some point in time. Our first reference from the land down under is the mammoth croc. Number 1, Quincana forterostrum. Probably one of the largest land reptiles to exist after the age of dinosaurs. This croc titan measured 29 feet in length and well over a meter tall, allowing it to look at humans in the eye if it wanted to, and other things. Its legs were well designed for primarily living on land, allowing it to move fast for hunting prey. Its broad snout also allowed for strong bites of its prey, and in it has recurved and serrated teeth, like its carnivorous dinosaur cousins, which made it easier for carving its prey. Another important trait of the creature is that it possessed a long and thick tail, and Quincana had such a thing in spades. But even better, and more fitting with our cryptid, is that it hung out mostly around places where water can be found aplenty, like rivers, marshes, or billabongs. Adding all of these together, and considering how the monster was also found in similar areas, yet it was also amphibious, and with our ancient reference showing both predatory traits the cryptid seemed to have, and practically identical length and size, this is a good place to begin with. So, to make the base for a realistic monster of Euroa using the Quincana, what I did is that I just simply used the shape of its overall just crocodilian base, and just made it a bit higher off the ground. This thing did primarily walk on land, and then I made its legs longer. If you notice the pictures of the Quincana, their legs are longer than most crocodilians today. Really, the closest thing that we have today that could come close to that is the Cuban crocodile and the African dwarf crocodile. But even then, they still don't quite have it right there. So
I just put it right there. I also made the legs a bit stronger because this thing from Australia is reportedly supposed to live primarily on land, but it is also amphibious. So there's that. I just put in a tail here just as a base. Realistically, this tail would just throw its weight off. But again, like I said before, we're not concerned with details, just to get the basic shape. So that's how we do it.
Number 2. Okay, this next one you'll see has brought up in a lot of discussions and articles covering this mystery animal. Number 2. Pederpies. A tetrapod from the early Carboniferous period, 348 to 347 million years ago, and discovered in Scotland, this creature resembles a heavier, more muscular cousin of the salamanders of today. Like the quincana before, it was also well adapted for life on terra firma, but had more traits that had it lean towards it being aquatic. This guy, as mentioned, has been brought up as a possible explanation for the creature now named Kithbook, but the trouble with that is not just the time period it lived in, but also its size. These were no monsters. In fact, they were only 3 feet long. Hardly something to be concerned about. However, the Euro beast definitely has suggestions of it being semi-aquatic, so for our design and due to it being the most common theory, we'll use pederpies to draw inspiration from.
So for the tail from the pederpies, we'll have to erase this because, again, this is just the base, and it wouldn't make much sense for an amphibious creature to have it raised off the ground anyway. So we just do this. So that's more or less dragging on the ground. Like this. Also, apologies if you hear cars outside. This is just... I just have the window open so that more airflow can get through here. This has been a hot summer, by the way. So, with this one, we just fan out the tail like that, and just have a webbing like this. And of course, we just like that. Of course, I will reiterate that this is just a rough start. We will refine this later on. So it doesn't necessarily have to look like this, but it gives us a base start for us to work from. Alright, on with the next one.
Number 3. Of course, one of the most defining traits of the monster of Euroa is not just its size or its amphibious nature, but also the head. Many witnesses describe it having a canine-like cranium. No one pointed to a bullfrog, but we'll just go with the former. Nevertheless, there is one amphibious prehistoric terror from Africa, India, and Pakistan that not only has such a face, but was formidable on land as well as perhaps in the water. Meet Anhydriodon, a giant otter that once lived alongside Australopithecus and other animals 4 million years ago. Not only was it large enough to eat and chase large game, but its teeth were robust enough to eat shelled creatures, which indicate a potential semi-aquatic existence. Its jaws had 4 fangs, 2 on top and another 2 on the bottom, that no doubt increased the bite power of its jaws, making it something to avoid altogether. Also, it tipped the scales at 400 pounds or 220 kilograms, and stood at a little over 2 feet at the shoulder. Put that into perspective, a big ancient otter that's as large as some of our big cats. This will be perfect to our hypothetical Euroa monster design, and it will receive the 3rd spot. Before we continue, we just want to ask, are there other Australian cryptids or legendary creatures you want us to do in a future video? If not, what about the continent's prehistoric menagerie? Please leave a suggestion in the comments. We'd love to know.
So the Anhydriodon reference, what I did was that I used a elongated oval shape for the head. If you look at the Anhydriodon head references I showed you, they have a roundish head, but also something that's fairly canine looking. So for the base, what I did is that I just did an egg shape right here. I also did a circle here. And that's when I filled in details, you know, like the eye here, the nostrils. The actual nose bit will be decided later. But I decided to combine the quincana and the otter references into the creature's maw here. We do need this thing to go after large livestock after all, as per the Monster of Euroa reports. And as for the legs, what I did here is that I simply just made them, you know, a bit more powerful, just made them a bit more defined. Again, keeping in mind what the Enhydriodon reference images show. It's primarily terrestrial, but there are some indications that it's aquatic, so I didn't make them too long, but I made them not too short either. So essentially what the real thing would look like, would have. The feet here need to be fixed, but again, we're not too worried about that. This is just showing you how to get the basics. So again, large circle for the shoulder bit here, a roundish bit for the upper arm, circle for the elbows, bowling pin shape for the lower arm, and another circle for the actual feet. And that's basically, you can see here, that's basically what I did here. This one here is just super rough, just me getting the very, very basics here. But that's how we incorporate the Enhydriodon into the drawing here.
Number 4. One of the big sticking points skeptics always bring up for cryptids is, if there's one, there has to be more of them. Which leads to the next question, how does this alleged creature, if it exists, even breed? That's hard to say considering only one has been reported. But if it was real, nature might have found a way. Enter the ornate monitor lizard, a native reptile to Western and Middle Africa, which has the ability to lay as many as 21 eggs without the fertilization of male as seen with one captive member. So, how is this important to our cryptid creature? Easy. Parthenogenesis not only allows an animal to lay eggs without a male, but also gives it the ability to hide from view even more. That last part is important because cryptids, whether you believe in them or not, are renowned for their hiding prowess. Granted, most animals are quite elusive and know how to hide from us very well, but since this creature hasn't been seen for decades, actually, come to think of it, almost nearly 150 years, holy crud, without any reported sign of its presence, we'll take this lizard and make it into a part of our beast. Mid-segment poll. What animal do you think inspired the Monster of Euroa? Drop your theory below. Again, we can't wait to see what you've got.
Alright, so to put the monitor lizard claws, what we basically do is that we just sort of lengthen them out here. Like that. I'll fix the feet up here, but that's how we generally do the claws. And as for the tail, we just make it just a tad bit longer. And give it sort of like a whip into it. That's how we do it. Simple as that.
Alright, now for the final reference. Number 5. The platypus. Wait, hold up. Save your comments for later. We know this is an odd choice at first glance, but this quack-faced monitoring from Australasia brings a few useful additions to our design. First off, it's amphibious, which helps our Enhydriodon and Pedorpes mentioned before, and it also lays eggs. This is a big deal because Enhydriodons are live birth creatures. Them being mammals, they don't lay eggs. But with the platypus, these are one of the few mammals that can lay the hard round things. And with that, the egg-laying dilemma is solved. Finally, these little guys are named to Eastern Australia and Tasmania, so this perfectly with our Down Under theme.
And for the platypus, we just need to add very short hair to the creature. Like that. So, yeah, I'll see you at the finish line. It's gonna be good.
Now you know how we reconstructed our rendition of the Monster of Euroa, or as we are going to call it, Palua Monstro Australis. Like its supposed real-life counterpart, it primarily lives in marshlands, swamps, and billabongs of the outback, only coming out to hunt animals on land, if the raised farm animals and ranchers' pastures aren't a clue. It would primarily hunt during dawn and dusk, and rest in the afternoon to maintain its body temperature. But when hunting, it would absolutely be a force to reckon with. Thanks to its main references being able to reference and off large game, this would go for large creatures like cows, horses, and even sheep if it wanted to. With its ability to lay eggs without a partner, it will be able to pass on its progeny without issue, even with the ever-encroaching grasp of humanity into areas of the outback. If it does exist, and if such a confrontation between it and humans does happen, let's just say, you don't want to be there when it happens. Is this the real face of the Monster of Euroa? Realistically, we'll never know. But this was a fantastic way to open up cryptozoology. And with that, we'll leave the outback down under for another equally interesting location. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like what you see and want more cryptozoology-based content, smash that like button and subscribe for more. We got more creatures to release into our enclosures in the near future. Until then, I'm Professor BH of Beastery Incorporated, wishing you well until next time.